the entire grindcore community, like international and everything, like really like jumped on board and helped us out. And that was a really big solid. And I'll be forever grateful for that. Like even Chirby shared it on the Obscene Extreme page, which was super cool. And I'm forever grateful for all that.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hey, how's it going? Trevor Graham from Organ Dealer.
How's it going? I'm Jeff Knoblauch from Organ Dealer.
And guys, how would you describe the music of Organ Dealer?
Blast beats, grindcore, typical stuff. Little death metal-y at times, I guess. Trevor?
I would have to agree, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think that sounds all right. Fast.
Any particular flavor of grindcore? Would you guys say that you skew more to an older style?
I think there are a lot of different styles of grindcore out there. I think we kind of fall under the category of more kind of like sharper, tighter than like higher vocals. Although we do have a lot of low vocals on the new album, but more like that European kind of Australian style, I guess.
Yeah, especially with this last album, it's pretty heavily influenced by the Aussie grind.
Yeah, definitely.
For people who may not be familiar with Aussie grind, who would you say the important bands in that scene are?
For us, I'd say like we like a lot of stuff like The Kill,
Captain
Captain Cleanoff, yeah, Internal Rot, Agents of Abhorrence, Meth Leopard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We just did a little tour with Meth Leopard back in July too. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Solid dudes. Although Kieran, their drummer, was not able to make it, so Eric had to pull double duties. So we were just us.
Yeah. Eric got punished the whole tour, but he did a good job. He's a good boy.
So, would you guys mind telling me about the history of Organ Dealer and how you guys came together and what your intentions were when you first formed?
Sure. It started almost 10 years ago. I was in between deciding whether to stay in New Jersey or move out to the West Coast because I was working in hotels and stuff at the time. And then I decided to stay on the East Coast to play music and started it with an old member who's no longer in the band. But we found Eric. I mean, at the time we were thinking maybe it would be like a death metal band. And then Eric was super into grindcore and we liked grindcore. And then it just made sense to do grindcore, I guess. Just go fast instead of slow. And then I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, that was like almost 10 years ago, I guess. And then Trevor was like a good friend of ours and he was always hanging out and also made sense to add him on bass and it was pretty good. And then eventually we ran into our old singer, Scott, who just left the band. We met him at the studio where we were practicing, where Eric, our drummer, has had a room for like almost 15 years. And Scott was one of the engineers there. And we literally were like walking down the hall and Eric was like, "Hey, you want to join a band? You want to sing?" And he's like, "Sure." We tried him out and that was great. And that worked for like a good solid 8-9 years. And then Scott eventually left the band after pandemic, after we recorded. And then we got our friend, we're all still friends. And then we got our friend, Chris, who is a lot younger than us. He's like in his 20s, 24, I believe. The rest of us are in our late 30s, early 40s. And that's about it. Also, we had one other guitar player in between there, a gentleman named Tom Marr, who's a good friend of ours. You might know him if you ever ran across the I Make Memes While Listening to Mortician page. That was his page. So he was there for a few years.
Yeah, he also does, was it Mass Extinction as his current project?
Yeah, Mass Extinction. Pretty cool, vegan, crusty grindcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an art teacher and I feel like he's more of like a homebody. And when he joined the band, we were just kind of doing local stuff. And eventually, like out of nowhere, we just kind of started traveling a lot more and playing all these festivals, which, we're going overseas. So that was, I guess that would probably be a lot for him. So when he left, he was basically like, "You guys should just keep it as a 4-piece. You don't really need another guitar player." And that's where we're at now. That's how we recorded the most recent album, which was a bit of a change.
Definitely makes traveling a lot easier with 4.
Oh, yeah.
But we missed Tom.
We do miss Tom. But yeah, the schedules and everything. The more people, it's harder to sync up, Yeah.
Jeff, you mentioned that with Eric's involvement, this became more of a grindcore project. But did you guys have a sense of like what kind of grindcore you wanted to make, or did you just want to play fast?
Oh, we just wanted to play fast because like before that, like it was all like kind of new playing that kind of style because death metal is like whatever, and then it was just like a sick challenge, just to push yourself and just get better and better and get tighter and tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And we liked bands like our favorite bands, like when we were always talking about, like we would, like when we were first starting to write, we would go up, like, we would hang out, listen to music in the car, and then go back down into the practice room. So we were always listening to bands like Lock Up, Gadget, Origin, was another band, Uphill Battle, that Eric always played a lot that we liked. And then Eric was in, before that, he had played drums in a band called Hayona Daisuke with like John Chang and Takafumi Matsubara. And we just kind of went from there. I guess we were just trying to, and we listened to like a lot of Origin at the time. So we were just trying to emulate those kinds of feels.
Just super fast and super tight.
Yeah. And Birdflesh too. I mean, like, yeah, we loved Birdflesh. And then
Birdflesh was my gateway band into grind.
Yeah, that's the one band, like I remember Trevor showed me Birdflesh, and that's when like I really got it. I was like, wow, this can be like crazy, brutal, fast, and but also super fun at the same time. You know, it didn't always have to be like serious Napalm Death style stuff. You could have fun with it, and I think
it's bad goofy. I mean, yeah, the first fucking song I ever heard from him was called "The External Vagina Power." It's got this little pipe intro, like a organ. Shit's so much fun. I heard that and I was like, oh fuck, this is fucking punishing, dude.
Yeah.
And you guys are label mates with Birdflesh now.
I know, how cool is that?
Yeah,
that's pretty fun for us.
And we got that fun split with them too.
Yeah,
that was a really cool experience too, being able to put out a split with those guys.
Yeah, that was like a dream come true, because
for real,
we eventually met them at a festival in Philadelphia. I was talking to Ellis, who I didn't know was Ellis at the time, but we were looking through records at the Relapse, like little record booth they had set up. And I think I picked up the Gadget album or something. And he was like, oh, that's a cool album. And I was like, oh, yeah, you like these guys? This is sick. And then I realized he was from Sweden. And I was like, oh, did you come here with the Birdflesh guys? And he was like, yeah. And we didn't know what they looked like because they always wear their masks.
Right, yeah.
And it kind of went from there. And then I found out like I have like my dad's side of the family is from Sweden, and they're all from like the same little southern town as Birdflesh, which was a very crazy coincidence. And so we kind of hung out there, and then we eventually just kept running into them at festivals and stuff, and we became good friends. And I think Mike Giuliano, actually from Horror Pain Gore Death, brought up the idea of a split to Ada from Birdflesh, and he brought it to us, and we were like, whoa, yeah, let's do it for sure. Yeah, that's how that happened.
That's awesome. Tell me about your songwriting process. How do songs usually start for you guys?
I usually like to come to practice with something prepared, just like kind of like a bulk of an idea or something like that, and we'll get in there and we'll hammer it out, and then Trevor will be like, I'll like bounce ideas off of him, and he'll come up with some cool riffs to like add where it's like pretty appropriate. And then when what's that?
I'm pretty bouncy.
Yeah, pretty bouncy. Like on this album, we definitely like have a lot more like bass breaks than we did before, which I liked a lot. I don't know if Trevor likes them.
I too enjoyed them.
You do?
Very much.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Sick.
They're fun.
Yeah, we can have ideas, and we'll come to practice. You don't know what it's gonna be like, and as soon as Eric starts filling in drums, it just kind of starts locking into place, and you can see what makes sense and what doesn't. And then also Eric has a couple songs where he'll just write drums, like a structure for drums, and because Eric just drumming, and he's like, I actually went into the studio today to grab my guitar, and Eric was just in there jamming and practicing. But yeah, those are fun songs too, when Eric just writes a skeleton, and then we just come up with riffs over top of it. It's like a different dynamic, but it still sounds like us, and it's a really fun way to write too. But it's mostly like one of us comes with ideas and brings it to the practice room. So that way, like, and every once in a while you'll have like you'll just have a spur of the moment jam that turns into something. But it's good to come prepared so you're not wasting time, I feel like. Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much everything you said.
So.
It was a bit difficult during COVID, though, obviously. This album took a really long time just because we started writing it prior to COVID. Then COVID happened, and then, like, our studio got shut down for a while, and then Jeff and Schnee's friggin' house burned down and shit. So there was a lot of hardship that in between it, which took a while. But it's fucking cool to get it done.
Yeah, that was brutal. The hardest part about that was, like, so yeah, we took like a year off to no shows or anything. We just wanted to write, and then sure enough, like then the pandemic hit and lockdown happened, and then so we had maybe like, I don't know, Trevor, what do you think? Like half the record done already with like all of us together?
Yeah, we had about 10 songs done prior to February 2020.
Yeah, and then me and Eric just kept hammering out and jamming on new stuff and sending those guys our ideas and seeing what they thought about it. And finally, when we were able to start getting back together, we just kind of like pieced everything together as a unit. That was very difficult. That was like that was a bummer. Lockdown.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was for you, but it was awful.
Yeah, it definitely sucked.
So it sounds like before COVID, you guys would come in with riffs and then arrange it together as a band with Eric. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's like the bulk of it, pretty much.
Sorry, I didn't want to gloss over this, but you said the house that you were sharing with Eric burned down. Is everything resolved with that? Or you guys?
It is what it is. No, it was awful.
It sounds like a terrible thing to happen on top of COVID.
Yeah,
right.
That was awful, and that was the worst part about it for me anyway, because I couldn't just go hang out with my friends and like spill my guts. I like had to like suffer through that by myself. That was like the worst part because nobody was hanging out. It was like June or July, I think, like right at the start of all that.
21 or 20 did it happen?
Yeah, it was 2020, I believe. It was like that summer, and then it sucks because like me and Eric didn't have renter's insurance, which is a thing you can get over here, and it's like really cheap. It's only $7-9 a month, and we just never got it because nobody ever thinks you're going to need something like that.
Yeah,
and we just never got around to it, and then sure enough that happened. But something that was really awesome, I was like really nervous about all this stuff, but a friend of ours started a GoFundMe, and like the entire grindcore community, like international and everything, like really like jumped on board and helped us out, and that was a really big solid, and I'll be forever grateful for that. Like even Chirby shared it on the Obscene Extreme page, which was super cool, and I'm forever grateful for all that. But yeah, that's how we kind of walked away from that. We like all our gear. We didn't lose any of our music gear or anything like that because it was all in the practice space. But a lot of our personal belongings, like when we lost those,
probably records and stuff like that, right?
Like our like my personal records. Yeah, like I saved like I think a good. I'm looking at them right now. I'd saved like a good half of them, but for like my room, it didn't get like torched. Like Eric's room got incinerated, but it was at the back of the house. My room just got like smoke damage, and then the firefighters like had to like cut like holes in the roof in the attic because like my door was shut, and apparently that's a really big deal when you're dealing with a fire. Like that can save a lot of things, but yeah, all their hoses and all the smoke and everything just got like half of my records and all the other stuff in my room.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the cause of the fire?
It was our neighbor downstairs who was grilling, and he had like a little charcoal grill, like a basic grill, but he was doing it on a wooden walk up to his door. He was like on the bottom floor, which was kind of like under a hill. Yeah. And like we had a huge backyard too, which is the stupidest part about it. But I guess he was like drinking a few beers or something like that, and maybe he passed out with his friend. I don't know exactly, but like I had seen him like not even 30 minutes, I feel like, before it happened. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just grilling with my buddy." I was like, "All right, sick, man. Have a good time." And then I went upstairs, made dinner myself, and then Eric came running in and was like, "Jeff, the house is on fire. The house is on fire." I was like, "What?" And then sure enough, the house was on fire. It happened real fast. And like the neighbor's house got like torched too.
Jesus.
It was a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of fire trucks.
Somebody should tell them about propane and propane accessories.
Oh hell yeah.
let's talk about the new album.
Sick.
It's called The Weight of Being, and it was released at the end of July through Everlasting Speed Records. We spoke a little bit about how this album came together. It sounds like it was mostly done during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned you had 10 songs finished by February of 2020. Do you want to talk about how the rest of it came together?
Yeah, that was like, so that was like the bulk of like that was like the harder part, because it was easy and hard at the same time, because like nobody knew what was going on. So it was like the middle of lockdown. We really started writing that bulk of it. And we couldn't get into our practice space, even though it was like 15 minutes away. So I would just kind of sit in my room and write riffs. And then I was able to show Eric, be like, hey, what do you think about this? And he'd be like, oh, that's sick. And I'm like, what do you think about this? That's sick too. And I just kind of built a bank up from there. And then like a couple months after like the bulk of lockdown, this is before our place burned down, we were able to get back in and start hammering all that stuff out. So it was just me and Eric, really. It was easy enough because we lived together, and that was like the funnest thing that we were doing was like, oh, let's go to the studio, let's write, let's practice, and eventually we were able to kind of bring it to everybody else, but that was the last bulk of that was like just me and Eric coming up with stuff and then showing these guys and seeing what they thought, and then finally after a few months everybody else was able to join us, and we were just kind of ironing out the little details.
Mm-hmm.
When would you say the writing part of it was finished?
Ooh. Trevor, what do you think? 2022? Early?
Yeah.
Like, early?
The same year we went to go record it. I think we were finishing it up.
When did we record it? I can't even remember now. It feels so long ago.
Like September. No, it was like October, I think, 2022. October, November.
October, November? Yeah,
maybe.
That's all right. No, maybe not 2022. 2021. It's 2023 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sat on this for a while. Like after we had it done, we had to wait for artwork and everything like that, and then like wait for the label. Art took us like 6 months to finally like get done, just because of some miscommunications with like another artist. And then we recorded it, and we were just sitting on the recordings forever. Everlasting Spew had reached out to us, early on, like when we were still writing, actually, because like he would talk to Eric every once in a while and just see how he's going, see what's up with the band. And then finally, just like out of the blue, was like, hey, I want to make you guys like an offer. If you guys want to release it with me, I'd like to release the new album whenever it's done. I mean, he totally took a chance on us with that, because like he hadn't even heard it yet, but I think he was pretty stoked on what we were doing before, and that we were like friends with Birdflesh, and we had to split together. And he said he was like, he wanted to release more grindcore, because I know they're mainly like a death metal label at the time. So that was how that kind of happened. But yeah, we had the stuff finished for a while. We were sitting on it done for like almost a year, I feel like.
Did it take this long to come out because of like vinyl and all that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, the vinyl we're still waiting on. I think it was just a matter of, it was like Everlasting Spew's release schedule versus when we were able to get them all the materials on time, I guess. Because, yeah, it took like a year to come out, I feel like. Year. And like after everything was done and mastered, we got that into them back in February of 2022, I think, if memory serves correct. Because I had... See, that was September 2021, maybe. I had to get rotator cuff surgery. So we recorded it before I had to get surgery, because I couldn't play for a few months after that anyway. And then, yeah, I think it was just a matter of like, it was just logistics. It just got lost in the sauce. It was like waiting for everything else to get submitted to them. And then also whatever their release schedule was, is why it took so long. And for us, it just felt like forever, because we had already started writing like back in 2019. And like, yeah, I don't ever want to take this long to release anything ever again. That's crazy. I just want to write and get it over with.
No more global pandemics, please.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
How would you compare the music to what you've done previously?
Ooh.
I'd say it's more straight grind.
This one's a lot different too. I think a lot of that came out with like I was used to having another guitar player to bounce ideas back and forth off of, and also it was like with Tom, I always like try to keep it pretty balanced. Like Tom would write a song, maybe I would have a little bit of input, or I would write a song, Tom would have a little input. And regardless, it was like always nice to have like another guitar player to bounce it off of. Not that Trevor's not great to bounce ideas off of. Trevor,
Yeah, what the fuck?
I love you.
Forget I played guitar before I played bass.
It's true. So, but like, I guess also like all the other records, we were fresh off of playing shows, all these things. So this time was like it was a lull. I think it sounds like there are parts where I think like I'm like, did we get a little slower? Did we? I don't know, but just because like we weren't actively playing shows and watching our friends' bands and stuff like that. But I think we had a lot. Like it was like the last two records that we put out were splits, so we didn't have like a whole chunk of change to like have to put up for. So that was like we had to like write like 20 something songs or whatever it was, and like not that we had to, like we didn't have a set number to write to, but we were like very aware that okay, we have a lot of songs that we can write now. I think it is like a next building block of what we were doing in the past. Like that first album we did, Visceral Infection, was a little bit more death metal-y, I'd say. And then like once the Birdflesh split hit, then we were like, that was like when we were just like, let's grind. And then the Nerve Grind split, the one we did with like Nerve Grind and Invertebrate, I think that was like definitely like a step in this direction. And this is, it's like it's a very solid break from like the death metal sound. I mean, there's a lot of that death metal backbone there, but there's definitely like we had a lot more fun ideas like that we could try out and play with that we built off before, especially like like the first song on the album with like that really long bass break, like stuff like that is fun. Just being able to play with different ideas. I guess I don't know if any of that makes sense. Maybe I'm just rambling.
So you guys had a few guests on this album, including some people who've been on the podcast before. Do you want to say who jumped in to help you guys out?
Trevor, you want to take it?
Yeah, totally. So we had Ben and Sebastian from Noisem. Sebastian did a sweet little solo in there, and Ben did some vocals. I think Sebastian did some vocals as well.
No, Sebastian was just guitar solo.
Okay, so Sebastian was just guitar solo. We had Lex from Sunrot.
And we had UK, and we had Ellis from Birdflesh on there as well. We wanted to get Ada on there, like to get all those guys on there because those are the homies. And I think Ada's just like didn't have like the setup and stuff, so he was like he just couldn't do it. And that was really cool because Ellis had asked me to do a solo on the most recent Birdflesh album that actually finally just came out, like not long before our album came out. So it was like fun to have like all the friends on it. Like Noisem, we had just done that tour before with them, like before we took a break, and that was in 2019. And those guys are really good friends of ours. Love those guys, and they live in Baltimore where we were recording because we were recording with Kevin Bernstein, and Ben actually lived like 5 minutes down the road from him in his studio. So we were hanging out with them when we saw them, and that like came out super natural. Like Birdflesh, I was like, oh yeah, we got to get them on here. And like that's like Ellis. I was like, how can I repay you for letting me do a solo on this? Because I don't even play leads that much, and Ellis was just like, you got to do it. So I definitely wanted to have them on there because he was like, I was like, how can I repay you? He's like, just get the Birdie Boys on the new album. I was like, hell yeah. And then Noisem was just natural because they were there hanging out, and Sebastian was like, hey, you want some dive bombs on the album? I was like, sure, that'd be sick. And then
I'll never say no to
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then Lex is like a good friend of ours. Like, hey,
Scott are best buds.
He and Scott are like best buds, so that was very natural.
He and Scott,
yeah.
I'm actually not that familiar with Lex's band, Sunrot. What kind of music are they?
Oh, they're dope. They're like sludgy kind of experimental stuff. Lex, he does a lot of noise on there. He's got like a whole giant. They all have like a bunch of pedals and stuff. Kind of like. I don't know if I would say neurosis-y, but what would you say, Trevor? I don't know.
Pardon?
What would you say?
I didn't hear that last part.
How would you describe like Sunrot's music? I just said like really sludgy, kind of like experimental with some noise parts.
They're cool. It's slowed down. Lex does a lot of cool, like Jeff was saying, stuff with pedals, stuff that's all beyond my knowledge. But yeah, it's rad. I dig it.
Yeah. They're awesome. They're also like local here, and like I used to live with their guitar player, so they're just
Cool.
Who else have you had on the podcast from the
Noisem? No, Noisem were on the podcast.
You had Noisem on there?
In the early days. Yeah, they're. I don't know if you ever met Lucas Lee. Lucas was their tour manager for a while. He was a good buddy of mine. He is a good buddy of mine.
Oh, nice.
But we haven't seen each other in a bit.
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to the Noisem guys, and they were on the podcast in the early years.
Sick.
Yeah, and actually, Ellis is also in a band called the Arson Project.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I've had Ellis on the podcast before to talk about the Arson Project and Birdflesh. And I think Ada might have popped on because I used to do, I'd go back to New York just to see friends, and then I'd see shows at St. Vitus.
Sick.
And so I was there when Birdflesh played, and I think Ada popped on to say some stuff. And
that's awesome.
He wanted everyone to know that someone from another band was retarded, and then he disappeared again.
That sounds like yeah, I love them. They're just great and hilarious.
So you mentioned going down to Maryland to record with Kevin Bernstein, I should say. Why Kevin?
Yeah, so we did the nerve grind and vertebrae split with him prior, and we just had a really good experience with him. We really dug the way he recorded. We got along with him really well. Like the studio, like the sound and everything that he came up with for us. So this time we were just kind of like, hey, you guys want to go back to Kevin? It was fun last time. It was much shorter last time. I think we only did, like 3 days last time, Jeff, or two or 3 days?
Yeah, it was like, because it was like only, I think we did like 5 or 6 songs for that split. So we did that in like a few days.
Yeah.
But that was honestly like, how did we decide to go to Kevin? That might have been Scott's suggestion. The guys from Chipang really liked him, and they're homies. And we like, I think like that's probably like the first person told me about Kevin was probably TT's from Chipang. And then, he's done like, he's in Triac, and like he's recorded a ton of, like he did all the Noisem records before their newest one coming out. And we were like, yeah, let's give him a try on the split. And we had never traveled like that to record before, and it turned out to be like a really good experience. Actually, like the greatest thing about it is because coming up doing this stuff before, we didn't know any better, so we were always trying to like be perfectionists about our recordings and like try and like practice them the clicks and then record them the clicks before that. And like, I mean, the two records that we did before, the first full length, which was more definitely than the Birdflesh split, we were like trying to do them to clicks, and then like finally, like I don't know what happened with Kevin, we were just like no clicks, and it was the best feeling ever. Like it was way tighter, it was way more natural, and we just played like how we practiced it, and then yeah, the whole experience was just fucking awesome. Kevin's the man.
Yeah.
What would you say he brings to your sound?
I'd say he knows like the tones that we're going for.
Yeah.
He was definitely trying to like the first time recording, they were trying to get me to do HM2 stuff. I was like, no, that's not my style. I don't want to do it. He was like making fun of me. But he's like really good at finding good tones. He knows exactly the sound that we're trying to do, which is really important. And he's got a really good ear for things. Like you know, he'll be like, was that supposed to sound like that? He's not like a producer, you know. On this record, we definitely were like, hey, if there's any suggestions you might have, like throw them our way. And like I mean, like one thing there's a pick scrape on one of the songs that I never would have thought to do, you know, and that was like, oh yeah, that would be fun. And threw a pick scrape in there, you know, stuff like that. He's got like a good ear for it. Mm-hmm. So that was, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was really happy with the bass tone that we got on this last record. I loved it so much I went and bought there's this dude that recorded with him prior. He's in like this nerdy math rock band or something. And he runs was it Boston Sound Research Institute? So he made this one pedal to be a combination of these two. I like that shit so much I picked it up, and now it's the only bass pedal I use. I also got a P bass because of this last recording. I was using Ibanez and stuff prior. But yeah, no, I was definitely happy with the tone that Kevin found for bass on this last record.
Yeah, he had like he's got like a good selection of amps. He's not like a crazy amp library or anything. Like my head is a Krankenstein Plus. It's the only head I've ever gotten, and I got it off of I guess 10 years ago. I got off of Craigslist. Some guy, he was just selling an amp, and I knew those were kind of hot amps. And like I'd never had a big amplifier before this band, and I was like, okay, let me go check it out. And this kid, I got it for $650. Like it was pretty much brand new, and that's the only head I've ever had. So we used that on the recording. I used that on every recording, but then Kevin had, because we did one guitar. I had two guitars with me. I did one guitar through the Krankenstein, and then we did another guitar through what's that guy, Dean something. I can't remember. This guy makes these boutique amps, and it was fucking awesome. It sounded like a 5150 EVH 5153s. It sounded like that on crack. It was such a sick amp. Let me see if I can look up this guy, Dean Costello. That's what it was, Dean Costello Audio. And so he had one of those amps in there, and he had this weird cab that we played that through. So that was good. He knows the sounds, you know. He knows what's up.
Yeah. This album does sound denser to me. It sounds like super. It kind of reminded me of the last Discordant Axis album. You know what I mean?
Oh, sick.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Dude, thank you. That's a pretty big compliment.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I guess that's like what we're going for sure, you know.
But I mean, was that intentional, or is that just me hearing that?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't like we didn't like go with him. We didn't have any references to like be like, hey, we want to make it sound like this. You know, we want it to sound like this. It was just kind of very natural. We were like, all right, what sounds good? And we're like, all right, this sounds good. Why don't you like, let's add a little more mids or something, or I would like dial the amp in how I felt. And then like, he would just like move the mics around, and that was just all natural vibe, I guess.
I mean, the sound is great.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
How did James Plotkin get involved with this? Was it through Kevin?
There is like a direct way how that kind of happened, but it was mainly like Kevin was just looking for like, because I think he'd use Audio Siege a lot, and I think that guy is just like super busy all the time. Like he'll get stuff done, but it's just like, you know, I think he was just looking for somebody else and found he started using James Plotkin and was like, he just highly recommended him, you know?
So the album is out now, and you guys recently finished up some tours. Do you have anything else planned for the rest of the year?
Well, we have something hopefully planned in August that we can't really talk about yet. I guess that's a full year away, so never mind. We have a local fest coming up that should be pretty cool. It's like a bigger local fest.
Spooky Fest.
Yeah, Spooky Fest. He's getting like Nun Slaughter's coming in for it. Sunrot, our buddies are playing. Devil Master's playing. It's gonna be like, Halloween time fun fest. We have a show on Thursday with Trucido, which is Brian Far. Are you familiar with Brian Fajardo?
I'm not sure.
He's crazy fast, great drummer. He was just in PLF for a few years. He just left, and before that, he was in like Kill the Client and stuff.
Phobia.
And he's in a
Ah,
band.
okay.
Yeah, so him, guitar player, one of the guitar players from Cognizant. There's their like other like grind band, so they're coming through on Thursday to St. Vitus, playing that with a couple other friends' bands, Moisturizer and Bandit. And Trevor, am I missing anything? What else is coming up?
I really think that's it for the rest of the year. It's just those two. And then next year,
what's that?
I said next year we're hoping to do some fun shit too, but we don't really have anything solid or planned or even in the work.
We got to talk.
People have talked.
I think so. We just wrapped up like a couple weeks ago our tour with Cartilage from San Francisco. If you haven't checked them out, they're fucking awesome. If you like stuff like Impaled and Exhumed, you would definitely love Cartilage. They're sick as hell. They cover themselves in gore and they play hot riffs. And so hopefully that was their first time on the East Coast. And so as a band in our 10 years of existence, we've been to Europe twice. We've been up and down the East Coast, and just because of how it is to navigate a grind band and everybody has to work because this stuff doesn't pay the bills, and then when you're gone on tour, band isn't paying for your rent and stuff like that. So it's hard to do these things. I guess that's an explanation why we have never been to the West Coast with our band. So hopefully coming up soon, we're going to organize something out there. Hopefully we'll do it with Cartilage because we love those guys. So I guess that's kind of plans. Plans are we have something in the works that we can't talk about in August. And then hopefully in between there'll be some kind of a quick run, hopefully to the West Coast. I think that's our next goal, is to finally get over to the West Coast, because we were supposed to do it in May of 2020. And that was with Meth Leopard originally. And, obviously that got canceled with the pandemic. So the little run that we did with them over here on the East Coast, we wanted to do the West Coast with them, but it just wasn't feasible at the time. So we really just want to get to the West Coast. I think that's our main goal is West Coast. Finally, eventually we'll get that.
I'd love to hit Tijuana, Mexico too, at least.
Yeah, absolutely, because the Unidad Trauma guys. And all that.
So The Weight of Being is out now through Everlasting Speed Records. Trevor and Jeff, tell everyone how they can order the album.
Well, you can get our Bandcamp. You can get it from Everlasting Spew. You can stream it on Spotify or wherever your streaming needs are made. Matt?
Apple Music, Spotify, Bandcamp, either from the band itself, organdealer.bandcamp.com, or Everlasting Spew's Bandcamp. And you can also pre-order vinyl right now through Everlasting Spew, but the vinyl won't be out until fall.
Yeah.
But right now, tapes, CDs are around. We have copies in our Bandcamp store. It's also on the Everlasting Spew website or on the Everlasting Spew Bandcamp. Our direct point of sale that the only one we have is really organdealer.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, that's about it.
And if people want to follow Organ Dealer online, what's the best way to do that?
Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. It's just Organ Dealer on Facebook, and then was it Organ Dealer Band on Instagram, Jeff?
No. It's just Organ Dealer on Instagram.
Oh yeah, we're just Organ Dealer on Instagram.
Yeah, no special nothing. Just Organ Dealer on Instagram, Organ Dealer on Facebook. You'll find us. And then Spotify also. I know there's some kind of social aspect to Spotify that I'm not quite grasping yet, but that's there also.
Sure is. Hit that follow button on Spotify. It does help. I do it all day long.
Because fuck algorithms and fuck paying for anything on Facebook.
Yup.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Thank you very much, Adrian, for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been an absolute blast talking with you and getting to discuss a little bit about the album.
That was really cool. Yeah, thank you for reaching out to us.
I don't think we've gotten to do that yet in a podcast or audio format. It's all been like written interviews. So thank you so much for bringing us on here.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
Yeah, that's really cool when you said like Noisem's been on here and Ada and Ellis have been on here. That's pretty awesome. Lets us know we're amongst good company, you know.
Cartilage too.
Cartilage too? Get out of here.
They're such good boys. Girl.
Oh, love them. I miss them every day.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That was our first proper run, like since coming back to the world and finally getting this record out. Like that timing worked out perfect.
Then our last one was with Noisem, who are also amazing people and just an absolute joy to tour with and hang.
Absolute sweethearts. A lot of them. Sorry for I'm rambling. You got to stop me from rambling. Stop me, guys. I'm rambling.
Call him Ramblin' Jeff for a reason.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you very much. Enjoy the album. Thank you for all the kind words, and thank you for having us and letting us take your time.
Keep on grinding.
Play fast. Eat ass.